All right, everyone. Welcome to Tiger Talk Thursday. We have episode 32 of Transitioning to Life After Sports, and we have former hockey player and coach Keenan Reynolds with us today. Welcome to the series, Keenan.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, for those of you that do not know Keenan, after finishing a 5-year junior hockey career at both the OHL and Junior A levels, he enjoyed a brief stint in US sports hockey with Carleton University before before retiring at the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic to focus on his academics. Upon retiring from hockey, Keenan immediately joined the coaching ranks as both a skills development coach with Shelley Kettles, Edgemaker, and an assistant coach with the Nepean Raiders U18AAA hockey team. 2 years into his coaching career, he is now the associate coach of the Nepean Raiders Jr A team. He also recently founded a business in January of 2023 called Spotlight Hockey, and it's a hockey media agency that is the first of its kind in Ontario, specializing in hockey photography, videography, and player promotion on social media. That's awesome. I think about the way that I used to market myself when I played hockey. My dad, I think, sent VHS to the university. So what a great new business entrepreneur. Well, welcome to the show. Why don't let's go back to when your earlier playing days for hockey. Tell us about how you got started, your love for the game. Let's start there.
For sure, yeah. I mean, growing up, I grew up about 45 minutes east of Ottawa in a tiny town called Pendleton, Bourget. And obviously living out in the country, there wasn't much to do, didn't have many friends near me. So like any Canadian kid, my mom and my dad made this like amazing backyard rink, and I would just
Yes.
spend hours and hours out there. My brother, who's 6 years older, was a hockey player himself, later went on to become a high-level referee. He's since retired, but back then he was playing like Rep B, and I thought that was the NHL. And that'll speak to, I know it's kind of funny, but as we continue, that'll speak to kind of the eyes wide open mentality that I always kind of had with hockey, which to a certain extent kind of probably hindered my progress in my career. But early on, it was always just about the love for the game. I love scoring goals. I was always loud, abrasive kid. I loved games. Wasn't always that big into practice, but growing up, I always played on the like the double A teams, then the triple A teams and stuff, but was never really considered one of the best players in the city. It kind of affected my confidence growing up, just because I always found that despite putting up similar numbers, being an English kid on teams out in Eastern Ontario with predominantly French teammates, I always felt like a bit of an outcast. And it was kind of funny. I was almost succeeding in despite of not really thinking I was all that good. And then right
Isn't
up
that
until
interesting? We do that all the time. Our successes tell a different story, but the internal game, the inner game is one of lack of belief or confidence. I'm running into so many athletes that are like that. When did you have that awareness? Because I mean, for 25, you're very self-aware, which is really cool to see. Because I mean, mindset is such a huge part of the game now. When did you kind of have that first realization that you kind of,
well, yeah, I mean, I can speak to a moment in my life that I mean, I look back on now and I kind of cringe at, but after
I have many of those.
yeah, trust me. I think we all do. That's the good part. That's how you learn, right?
Yeah.
So there was this moment when I was about 17 years old. I'd already played a year in the OHL as a 16-year-old that for abundance of reasons just didn't go that well. I wasn't ready mentally, physically, emotionally for that step. Was kind of deferential to my teammates. I didn't really want the puck. I was terrified to make a mistake, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
And that speaks to low confidence. But I specifically remember coming home after that first year and being 100% committed to turning my career around at that point, and putting in a solid 5 months in the gym, skating at the time with a lot of Ottawa's top players. Mark Mathot was at our gym at the time, just skating with him. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. He
Yeah.
passed me the puck and stuff, which was amazing. But I remember I was sitting outside in the parking lot with my dad, and we got into a full-on screaming, like shouting argument, because he was telling me like, you need to use your speed.
Mm.
It's your best asset. And I was like breaking down in tears, being like, I'm not fast. Stop telling me I'm fast. Like, I don't think I'm fast. And that had kind of been my entire career, where my dad would always be like, you're better than you think you are. Like, you just need to go out and do it. But because I never really had that reinforcement from people outside of my like nuclear family, it never really correlated into my confidence. And as a result, I was really fast, but I only actually probably realized that uh, fully when I was around 18 years old, once I had already kind of been released from the OHL, which is crazy to say out loud because a lot of people are just beginning their OHL
Yeah,
career,
for sure.
and my chance was already come and gone.
And how did that affect you mentally? Like, were you in a little bit of a darker space when that happened? When you had that realization, did you feel like you missed the boat on an opportunity at that time? Obviously, seeing all the success you're doing now, but at that moment of time in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think going back, there's just a couple decisions. In general, I try to live my life without regrets, but there's a couple decisions. Number one, playing the Ontario Hockey League at 16 was something that I actually looked at as an amazing accomplishment, as it
Yeah,
is. But
it
um,
totally is.
it is, but it like the one thing I know now is it really is the beginning. It's not a any conclusion of a journey. And I was so excited to just wear the jersey and be there and proud and after all of the adversity I'd already been through, as I mentioned, with some bullying and a lack of confidence. This honestly, when I made that team, it felt like okay, like I've done it.
So
But
what would you, I'd love to stop you right there because there's going to be other up and coming athletes that, go on to make the 67s here in Ottawa. If you could go back, what would you tell that 16-year-old so that someone else is coming on, maybe you can save them that time and space to learn the lesson? What would you get? What advice would you have for that young athlete?
I would say junior hockey, in its simplest form, is a business. And if you aren't completely dominant at the level that you're currently playing at, there's no need to take that step simply to get the jersey. I think that's the most
Like wait
important.
till when you're actually ready.
I It doesn't matter how good you are at 16. And for the vast majority of athletes, it doesn't matter how good you are at 17. I mean, the NHL draft is at 17, but that's 210 players on the planet. And if you
Mm.
aren't a part of that group right now, we're seeing this resurgence of the NCAA Division One as being the pipeline to the NHL because kids are coming out at 23, 24, 25 as a more polished product, both intellectually, confidence wise, emotionally, physically.
Well, I
Uh,
think you just nailed it. The growth that we do. I mean, I went to University of New Hampshire. It was an NCAA Division I ice hockey team, and I was seven. I was younger. I was a December baby, so I would have been 17. But when you think about the growth that you do from a young adult in those prime years, I mean, there's so much change.
uh,
You mess up so many times, so you build your resiliency right there. You step into adulthood more and more. So I can see why that would be a more favorable pick. I mean, to emotionally stable is what you want on as to show that you can be a professional consistently, right? Would you agree with that, with what you're saying?
100%. And I think part of it too, like I said, was if I had been a go-to guy my entire kind of minor hockey career and had those reps where, for example, a power play is called on the other team, like you're already swinging your leg over the boards because you know you're going on the ice, right? There's no doubt about it in your mind. That is the confidence, without question, that you require to be able to advance to the next level. If you don't have that and you're only beginning to hit kind of the apex of your confidence at the level that you're playing, in my opinion, dominate for a year and then take that step. Once
Mm.
it's not, oh my gosh, I'm in the OHL, you're just
Do
on
you,
another hockey team.
do you not think though athletes might think like they probably are thinking this is the only chance I'm going to get, and what if I miss the boat? Do you think that's why athletes are jumping? I mean, who wouldn't jump on that? It's like their dream. It's been their dream since they're younger. So it takes a very mature person to, like, what if somebody comes in and takes that spot?
For sure. I mean, I will say one thing that made it a lot easier for me to sign at 16 was I kind of leveraged the fact that I was pretty elite academically against some
Mm.
US college offers, and I basically told my major junior team, okay, guys, like you're either going to give me a full academic package, like my full Canadian university paid for, or I'm just not going to sign. So they were great about that, which made it obviously in retrospect a bit easier because I took that financial burden off of my parents, and proud to
Yeah.
say I left
Well, I love that you had to focus on academics as well, because we all eventually retire from sports. That's just like a
Yeah.
common denominator. But what did your parents really cultivate that? What was their role behind the scenes with you as an athlete?
Yeah, I mean, obviously academics is very important. My mom always stressed that. I think even going back to when I was super young, it was the conversation of, Keenan, I know you love hockey, but if you're not done your homework, you're not playing. So,
Way to go, mom. My mom would
uh,
love that she said that.
yeah,
Well,
there was
and
many,
so you did you find you got wrapped up in your identity as a hockey player, or because you had the focus of athletics, it seems like you had a more grounded approach than some other athletes that are maybe more ego driven, or would you say you got caught in that identity piece?
oh, I 1,000,000%. There's a lot of perspective in my words now, but I'd say at that time, I became who I was on the ice, and it kind of consumed my personality. And I would
Mm,
also say that I had a very results driven confidence,
hmm
which was good in my minor midget year because for the first time in my life, I was over a point per game, and all these scouts and people were tweeting about me as a top prospect. And yet, because I was a results based confidence approach, when I went to the OHL and the results completely got taken away,
mm,
in fact, became something that I had severe anxiety and depression just thinking about the expectations.
yeah.
It threw me into a full-on identity crisis, to
Yeah,
be honest.
performance anxiety hijacked your body for sure.
Yeah, I was terrified to make mistakes. I was terrified to get yelled at, made an example of. My coaches, my first 2 years in the OHL were would use me as kind of the lowest rung on the totem pole, both age wise and lineup wise, to make an example. And now as a coach, the part of the reason I'm backing it on that end is to make sure that this next generation of kids have coaches that are looking out for them and building them up, even if they're the last rung on the ladder on a lineup, because inevitably those are going to be your leaders one day if you don't force them to basically to take a hiatus from hockey like I did.
No, for sure. Sorry, I'm laughing because can you hear my dog snoring?
No, I can't. No.
Okay, maybe I'm just picking it up my headphones. Sorry for those
Oh, same
watching.
here.
It's just driving me nuts. It's a bulldog, so he sounds like my he sounds
No.
like it's snoring really loud. Sorry, and it's catching me off guard. So it's making me laugh. So what would you say when you decided, like, you went the coaching avenue? So a lot of us can fill our cup when we transfer as players to the coaching side. I mean, we're still part of the game that we love. We get to inspire other people. We get to dispense our lessons and wisdom. What is it that what sorry, two parts to this question. How much time between when you ended to when you started coaching? Like, life after sports is the main focus of this conversation.
Right.
Unfortunately, we had some friends that had passed away that didn't transition as well to life after sport. And I know after talking to so many athletes, there are a ton that struggle in silence because they go from being in the limelight, right? And it's hard to tell people and be vulnerable that you're not okay or that you're struggling with your identity because you've done something that's defined your whole life basically for 20, 30 years. So how much time did you take post career before you jumped right into coaching, or were you coaching while did they overlap a little bit?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, for me, the end of my hockey career was the culmination of what I call kind of just a train wreck of a junior career, starting with
Yeah.
going to the OHL too early and ending with 2 years. I lost back-to-back Junior A championships in the CCHL in the finals with teams that were ranked respectively first in the country and fourth in the country all year.
Mm.
So these powerhouses that we lost in the finals, it was really tough for me to swallow that, especially with how my career had started. And
And
I
you're
was
results driven.
results driven, and I
Yeah.
just suffered two pretty much season-ending injuries my last 2 years as well. So at that time, I made the decision to go to Carleton University just as a student. I wasn't gonna try out for the hockey team. I ended up going to the open tryout, kind of
Of
like
course you made it.
yeah, I made the team, was in the team picture, played a couple exhibition games, had an assist, got a concussion actually in the second game, just got elbowed in the back of the head. I remember like very distinctly, I was sitting in the training room in Carleton, and they had already recruited a full recruiting class, not because I decided just to be a student. So I wasn't even involved. They just brought me in because they were like, oh, like this guy, we liked him last year, he can still play. And I just remember talking to my parents, and I had tears in my eyes. I just told my mom, like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like it's time
Oh,
to move on. So decided to kind of
what
retire.
happened that made you? lean towards that decision? What was like, was there like a game? Was there a moment? Like, can you define a moment where you were like, it just nudged you the wrong way? You go, no, I need to honor this part of me that is done with this. Was there a
Yeah,
point that you can think about, a
it
game
was
or?
just a cumulative, honestly. Like
Yeah.
just kind of going through every year. When I look back, I just didn't really get a lot of bounces, like injury wise.
Got it.
Like it was just every single time it felt like I was gaining a little bit of steam. It was one step forward, three steps back at a
Got
certain
it.
point. And then losing back-to-back finals was just excruciating because how much of a competitor I am. But
Yeah.
uh, I get to Carleton and like I wasn't part of the recruiting process. The team was already made. It was kind of like me just being there, and I knew some people on the team, but I didn't really feel like I was part of the team. Didn't know if I really wanted to be part of the team.
Yeah.
Was half the battle. And after the concussion, I just shut her down. I was like, you know what, like I'm over hockey. It hasn't
Yeah.
been good for me. And to be honest with you, I took like a long break before I even thought about hockey. And the other thing is this was 2019, 2020, COVID hit. So
Oh,
um,
yeah. It's
I
just the
retired.
perfect storm for you there.
Well, it made the decision to retire a lot easier because I retired and then no one in Canada was playing hockey. So
Yeah.
allowed me to kind of make peace with that decision, left me with a lot of alone time to be retrospective and to analyze the mistakes that I made, what I really want out of my life. And in a lot of ways, I love your mentality of like seizing the day and how value-based confidence and really making sure that every interaction you have, you're manifesting positivity and being a source of energy for other people. And through that, once I kind of got out of COVID, I realized, you know what, maybe I don't hate hockey. Maybe I just hate what hockey did to me. And I just completely randomly, I had an opportunity to join the Nepean Raiders U18AAA as a part-time assistant coach. I joined that team. We were an absolute wagon. We ended up like breaking the league record for points and wins. We went to provincials and got cheated by some Toronto refs. I think we were going to win the national championship, but ended up with a provincial bronze medal. Came back the next year, was associate head coach of the UA team again. We ended up losing in the semifinals in Game 7, which was pretty tough. But this past summer, got promoted to Junior A, and now I'm like,
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, it's honestly just kind of rekindled the fire that I once had, because now I know I can't get injured unless I'm not paying attention in practice and then ring off the crossbar and hits me. But secondly, I think my best attribute as a person is my ability to communicate effectively and to connect and be relatable, especially to these young players where now my overagers are 20. I'm only 25. So,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, the way that the traditional coach might speak to them, I approach it from a different perspective. But in the same breath, I have the confidence and the wherewithal to be able to say to them, guys, like I was a 16-year-old rookie that got bullied. I was a 20-year-old overager that played power play. I was an all-star. I was a spare part at times. I played left wing, right wing, center. I've been injured. I've been through a lot. And while my resume might not stack up with some of the elite coaches in the world, something I will say is maybe the fact that I had a bit more of an arduous journey throughout hockey provides me with a bit more ability to connect with the entire lineup rather than just the top players
Yeah.
and the stars, which I think is an asset and something that really helps me as a coach.
And what is it that you would love to see for the future of hockey and coaching? You seem very passionate about it.
Yeah, well, I think in a cultural sense, everything that's been happening lately has been everything that I kind of knew was happening behind closed doors. I grew up, my mom is a hardcore lefty. My dad is on the executive of a trade labor union here in Ottawa. And I grew up preach progressive values, making sure that togetherness is really emphasized. And to be completely blunt, hockey is a rich white kid sport, and it has been for a long time. So number one, breaking down barriers and making sure players feel as though they can be themselves. Inclusion, equity, diversity is very important in my locker room, making sure there's no bigotry, there's no misogynistic comments being made, because integrity, in my opinion, is the number one thing that athletes should learn. And then secondly, knowing how much I grew as a person through the trials and tribulations that I faced, being able to convince my players that every time that you encounter adversity in your life, you need to look at it as an opportunity to embrace failure and grow from it
Yeah.
rather than allowing it to defeat you, because sometimes it will defeat you, but the true champions are the ones who were able to overcome it
Yeah.
and achieve greatness through just perseverance, resilience, and a lot of times stubbornness.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's either a great day or it's a character building day, right?
Exactly.
I've
Exactly.
had many of those as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love your outlook on life. I love your outlook on the way you're coaching these kids. What final words would you have for, I talk to athletes, some of them are 15 and they were gymnasts or horseback riders since they were 5 years old and they're struggling with their identity. And then I also speak to people that are in their 40s or 50s and they're like, I think I'm still struggling with my identity from life after sports. What would be something that maybe I haven't asked that you would love to dispense and make sure that the world knows of how you can transition to life after sports, or maybe life after sports as you know it, because I do interview some athletes that have had spinal cord injury and then they go on to be para athletes or Paralympians. So I mean, and that is mindset driven. That is
Mm.
all mindset. That's a choice that I'm not going to let this define me. I am going to see what I'm capable of. What advice would you like to leave the athletes or parents, community, viewers? Because I do believe we are all in this together. The
Mhm.
players, the fans, the community. It's as a collective. Building this self-awareness is only going to better each other. So what would you like to say to people listening?
I just say, number one, a process driven approach to confidence and a process driven approach to your attitude and your character is extremely important. If you ride the roller coaster of performance and results driven aspects of your life, in the highest of highs, you might get a little too high, a little Icarus, fly too close to the sun, be knocked down a couple pegs. And in your lowest moments, I can say this from experience, it feels like the world's ending. So
Yeah.
being able to see the long game is super important. And then the second thing, probably more important thing, just in terms of the identity aspect of it, is just because you're good at something and you love something doesn't mean it makes you who you are. I would urge people to think about, in their heart of hearts, take some time away from your phone, away from stimulus, and just think about, what am I willing to stand for? If someone asks me, what is Keenan Reynolds about? I'd be able to say, like, I'm loyal. I'm someone that is intensely caring and passionate about the things that I love. I'm someone that's always going to try to make people smile. I have my flaws like anyone, but once you understand that who you are as a person is not connected to what you do, it's how you conduct yourself, it's how you treat the people that you love. And in a lot of ways, it's who you keep around you.
Mm-hmm.
Once that becomes the baseline for who you are as a person rather than any performance driven metric, I
Yeah.
think it allows you to focus more on what you love, and the things which may have seemed a little bit too important in your life prior because of the weight that you were putting on them
Mm-hmm.
become a little bit more trivial, because in the end you're still going to have your values, the
Yeah.
people that you love, and your passions, which in my opinion is what life is all about.
Yeah. No, I love that. I mean, sports are what you do. They're not who you are. And you just nailed it on the head with all of that. I love that. And I'm all about, addressing the whole athlete as well as just the what you do on the ice or the accolades. I mean, it took me going through breast cancer to figure out that I've been muscling my way through until at least 40. I mean, the gift of breast cancer was introspection. And I love that you said, take time away from social media, take time. I went through a large season of silence, and that's what propelled me so much further to what I'm doing now with my TED talk and my speaking and all that stuff. You are wise beyond your years, Keenan. So it is so great to see someone at 25, paving the way for this type of leadership, this type of coaching, this type of mentorship. So thank you for what you're doing in the community and for your athletes. It's a pleasure having you on the show. This is episode 32 with Keenan Reynolds. Thank you so much for joining us for Tiger Talk Thursday.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.